Okay, this was an in-class exercise from a year or two ago for CS 141. I'd like to go ahead and walk through how you could do this and test this using BlueJ. So this is the bucket of kittens class. We want to write a class that represents a button of fuzzy kittens, brought to you by Pause for Pause, where people bring their dogs into work during finals so that you can go pet them and have a stress-relieving experience playing with a puppy. Now, as all good buckets of kittens, this bucket has to store the number of adorable fuzzy kittens. We're also going to assume that these are magical kittens that don't trigger allergic reactions. You're going to need to have a constructor that sets an initial number of kittens, a method that takes an int called numKittens and adds that number of kittens to the number of kittens in the bucket, and a transfer method that takes another bucket of kittens named other and an int and transfers the number of kittens from this to other. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to make a new project. I'm going to put this in my 141 folder. I'll make it an in-class example. I will call it kittens. Great. You know what? I'm going to start closing some of this stuff. Come on. There we go. So first I'm going to make my class called bucket of kittens. I'm going to call it bucket o kittens. Cool. Now the first thing I need to figure out what instance variables I need. Well, we know we just need to store the number of adorable fuzzy kittens in the bucket. So I know it's going to be an instance variable. I don't really need a main, so I'm just going to delete that. So I'll have int numKittens. Great. So that's one thing I need. Next thing I need a constructor that sets an initial number of kittens. Okay, that sounds good. It's a constructor, so public, no return type, bucket o kittens. And I think I'm going to pass in n, a number of kittens. And what I'm going to do is say this.numKittens equal n. So I've got this constructor, you give it some number of kittens, and it creates a new bucket of kittens with that many kittens. Now let me test this much and make sure that it works. So I'm going to compile this. I'm going to come over here, I'm going to right-click this. I've got the constructor I just did here, new bucket of kittens with int n. So I'm going to click that. I can pick a name for the instance. I just choose the default. I'll show you what happens in a second. And new bucket of kittens, I need to put in my int here. So I don't know, let's create a bucket of kittens with 5 kittens. This is called the BlueJ workbench. It's creating stuff down here. These are the instances. So bucket of kittens 1 of type bucket of kittens. If I double click it, it's going to tell me I've got my number of kittens as 5. These are the instance variables inside this instance. And if I come over here and right-click on this, you can see I don't have any methods. I have methods I inherited from object. Those are like default things like toString and stuff like that, but not really what we're looking for. So I'm going to go back in here and add some more code. We want to add a method that takes the number of kittens and adds that to the number of kittens in the bucket. So I don't really need to return anything in this method if you think about it. I'm going to take a number of kittens as a parameter and just add it to the bucket. So let's try that. I don't need to return anything. I'll call it add kittens int. It says I'm supposed to name it numKittens, so I'll go ahead and do that. And I want to add it to my number of kittens, but now I have a problem. I've got a parameter named numKittens, but I also named my instance variable numKittens. So one way to get around this is to say this.numKittens plus equal numKittens. Try compiling this. I'm hitting Control K, or actually on my Mac I'm doing Apple K or Command K to compile, so I don't have to like move the mouse up here to hit the button. So this seems to work. Let's test this out. We're going to make a new bucket of kittens. Bucket OK1 is fine. I'll put 5 kittens in there. Double click. That looks right. Now if I come down here, this method is here. Let's see what happens if I add 10 more kittens. So the method worked. Let's look at this. Yeah, 15 kittens. Fantastic. So I'm able to add kittens, so that's awesome. Now I need a transfer method that takes another bucket of kittens named other and an int named numKittens and transfers numKittens from this to other. So this is really transfer 2. Here we go. So public, I can do void, I'm going to call it transfer to, and I'm transferring to another bucket of kittens. So bucket O kittens, oops, I'm supposed to name that other, and I need the number of kittens. Okay, int num kittens. And in fact, I'm going to cheat a little bit and just call this n, because I don't feel like typing this.num kittens all the time. Now I'm transferring from this to other. Now the first thing is, well, what if num kittens is 5 and n is like 1,000,000? Well, I can't transfer 1,000,000 kittens if I only have 5. So I've got to decide what to do. I can either not do the transfer at all or only transfer what I have. So I think what I'm going to do is not do the transfer at all. So I'll say if this.num kittens is less than n. In other words, if I have 5 kittens and I've been asked to transfer 100 kittens, well, I can't do anything. So maybe I'll just, well, I actually don't want to do anything here. So I could just leave this empty. But this is a common thing that happens when you're programming. You realize, well, figuring out that I don't want to do something with an if is a little weird because now I'm going to like have an else here and there's nothing to put in this if. So what I'm going to do is actually reverse this condition. I'm going to say, well, if this.num kittens is greater than or equal to n, well then I want to do something. And what I want to do is actually do the transfer. So I'm going to say this.num kittens minus equal n and other.num kittens plus equal n. And so I've got 2 bucket of kittens. I've got this, the one it was invoked on, and then I've got other, the other one. So only if I have enough kittens do I do the transfer, and if I don't have enough kittens, well then I just don't do anything, and it returns void. So let's try this out. Now to do this we need 2 buckets of kittens. So I'm going to make 1 bucket of kittens with 5, and I'm going to make another bucket of kittens with 10. And I'm actually, so I have these down here. Now what I want to do is transfer 5 kittens from this bucket to that bucket. So I'm going to click, I'm going to say transfer to. Now this is expecting 2 things, a bucket of kittens and an int n. So I got to put the name of the other bucket. It's bucket OK2, right? So the name of this variable has to match here. And I'm transferring all 5 of my kittens. So now I should have 0 kittens here and 15 kittens here. Let's see if that's what I have. 0 kittens, 15 kittens. It totally worked. Now one other thing we could do, if we try to transfer more kittens than we have, this will fail. So for example, I now have 0 kittens here. So if I try to transfer to bucket OK2 5 more kittens, I don't get a return value, but if I look at this, this is still at 0, this is still at 15. I didn't go into fuzzy kitten debt by giving away 5 kittens I didn't have. One thing I could do to know if this transfer method succeeds or fails, I could make it return Boolean, and watch this. If it succeeds, return true. So do the transfer, return true. If it doesn't succeed, return false. All right, so in this case, if I have enough kittens, transfer them, and return true, end the method. If I don't have enough kittens, return false. So now, let's make 2 instances. Can I undo that? No, I can't. Well, let's try this again. 5, and we'll make another one with 10. Now if I try to, let's look at this. We've got 5 kittens in here. If I try to transfer to bucket OK2 100 kittens and I only have 5, it returns false, which lets me know I tried to do this transfer and it failed. That's just not going to work. And if I look at the counts, I've still got 5 and I've still got 10 kittens. So this is just an example of how you can use, this is called the BlueJ workbench, as you're writing these classes to create instances and test them out real quick. We could do all of this essentially with a main method, but in a lot of circumstances this turns out to be a lot easier. Awesome, that's what I've got. Let me get this